Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Canary Row, and with me today are my two fellow canaries, MacPeter and Manny Cruz. Say hi.
Manny's my name, but I don't know my age.
You probably don't want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Oh,
As I look in the mirror every morning in disgust.
In disgust. Wow. Okay, I'll leave it at that, I guess. But a few bits of info to get us underway. So this is Canary Row, released in 1950. It had a blue ribbon reissue sometime in 1959. It's the 601st in the series, and it's directed by Friz Freleng. You can find this on the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 1 DVD set. It was then redone for the Looney Tunes Platinum Collection Volume 3 Blu-ray set, and I'll have links below to those sets. And as for a synopsis, well, it's a formula Sylvester and Tweety short, although in this case it's not a bad thing. Sylvester wants Tweety. He tries to go into the building Tweety's in. Can't go in due to the fact that no dogs and cats are allowed. So, as you can typically expect, Sylvester goes through a series of schemes to break in. So, there you go. A few bits of trivia to get underway. So, first of all, the title itself is a play on the John Steinbeck novel Canary Row, which was released a few years prior. And as with all of these cartoons with the play on titles, it's got nothing to do with the original title. More importantly, this short has the first appearance of Granny, who from here on would appear in a lot of Sylvester and Tweety shorts. Here she'll be initially voiced by Bea Benaderet, but later on voiced by June Foray. And in case you want to point out that, oh, but we had Granny characters before. No, those were just generic characters created for the actual shorts. Here, it was created for the series that they would end up using from here on. Now, we got a Friz Freleng background check happening here. We've got a big billboard saying, Friz in 6 delicious flavors, which I think I see you mentioning that might be a reference to something.
It is definitely a reference. I've seen it in other cartoons with 6 delicious flavors. I am not sure what it's referring to. It's definitely a candy or a drink brand at the time, though.
Yeah,
That's I'm certain on.
Like a soda or a...
I'm thinking like a lollipop.
Maybe, yeah. So if you know what it's referring to, definitely let me know in the comments below. We do see very briefly a Frisbee sign in the background, and there is a sign saying Champion, which is a reference to Ken Champion. And of course, as Manny sung for us earlier on, this is the second short to feature the new Tweety theme song. So it's a wonderful little song that was quite popular, but they used it for a few shorts and then they just stopped. I don't know why. I thought it's a nice little tune. Right, so boys, this is your typical Sylvester and Tweety. We're pretty much at the formula now, but starting with you, Manny, what are your general thoughts on this short?
I was pleasantly surprised. My favorite decade of Warner Brothers cartoons is the 40s. It's the zenith of the studio with the creativity, with the output they're coming in. I'm also biased with the 40s because my exposure to it in my early years, I saw a lot of 40s cartoons growing up. Whereas in the 50s, it's like I started, even as a kid, I noticed the formulas, and as the decade goes on, the animation doesn't look as nice because they had to start, cutting costs, so to speak. I was never the biggest Sylvester and Tweety fan because I always think of the formula with the conflict between the two of them, and I personally am not the biggest fan of Tweety. I like, the Clampett Tweety, not the Freleng Tweety. I guess since this is still early on in the formula, and since some of the energy is still there, that the remnants of the 40s, I was laughing a lot in this cartoon, and I was really enjoying not only just the gags themselves with the animation, just there were several gags in this cartoon that it's just clear examples of just how brilliant his timing was. Like one in particular I could think of is when Sylvester turned into the bowling ball when Tweety threw the bowling ball down the drain. And just the timing of the ball going down the drain itself, and also a perfect example of Friz being economic with his animation, where you don't see Sylvester hitting the bowling pins, but you hear it. And I died laughing when I heard it. I'm just like, look at that. He did so much with so little.
Yes.
As someone who is Italian, I have to say I love seeing organ grinders in cartoons. I love Sylvester just trying to be this monkey and just trying to do all this. It's so silly. It can't fool anybody. He's so confident. You were talking a little bit about Tweety's character. I think Sylvester is a great character, even in these cartoons. He does all the
Yes,
heavy
that I
work, and
agree with.
it's really funny just seeing Sylvester just be so confident in himself no matter what happens. It's like he knows he's not going to get it, but he just has fun trying.
Look, it's no cross-dressing Sylvester, because that's my favourite. I mean, I'm sure we can all agree with that. The cross-dressing Sylvester is the best, because of his, as you say, his confidence. But Sylvester dressed as a monkey is definitely up there. And of course, I mean, was Granny fooled originally, or was she then, like, did she realize that after he lifts up his hat, or was she just playing along the whole time? You know, that was, yeah, the bowling gag is great. It's also a sign of things to come for Hanna-Barbera, where they would do a lot of action with sound effects just to save on animation. But I definitely do agree, this one is definitely something that's lower budgeted. They seem to reuse a lot of the same backgrounds in this one.
Yeah, they use that same little thing where drink frizzes. They tend to stick to the same little part of the city.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really interesting because Friz was very good at being economical and reusing stuff. You barely notice until you think about it.
Exactly, like the pacing, like that's the same animation reused over and over. I mean, it's great. Manny, you said to me you love the pacing gag as a musician, right?
Oh, the every time Sylvester was pacing, and also the scene when Sylvester was picking up the I think it was 500-ton weight, and just, I said it in the previous commentary, but it's just, as much as Carl Stalling was brilliant at what he did in the arrangements for these cartoons, in the original compositions as well, but my goodness, we got to give more credit to Milt Franklyn for the work he did, because of the specific, as I've said before, orchestration is when the orchestrator picks the specific instruments that will be playing whatever Carl Stalling did. And I know in the scene, you know, like I said, the pacing scene and the weight ones, just the specific instruments that he picked to play those little flurries of notes over there always makes me laugh. And I also want to shout out in particular the scene when Sylvester is like doing the blueprints and he's devising the plan, and I think it was the bass clarinet in particular that was playing that little theme while Sylvester was like on the drawing board doing his thing, and I'm like, that could have been a trumpet, that could have been a violin, but the fact that Milt Franklyn specifically picked that low instrument, that bass clarinet, to do that right there, it's just like, I was just dying of laughter hearing it. You mentioned before, SC, with whole organ grinder thing. I think apparently I'm getting into a rut because I'm doing a bunch of cartoons with organ grinders. See, I did Hurdy-Gurdy Hair. I have to finish the organ grinder, Anthony, so don't kill me. No. And now this one, but I thought it was funny
right into a rut like the Sylvester and Tweety cartoons.
Yeah.
Instead of you being the Toonie Tanner, we'll call you the organ grinder Manny or something.
Manny the non-Italian organ grinder.
There we go. Beautiful.
But I thought musically was interesting, and it probably makes sense at the time. But you heard French music playing on the organ grinder. You know, Alouette, Alouette, gentil Alouette. I think I'm just going to become an organ grinder now because it seems to be in my destiny.
That's right. And I'll dress up as your helper monkey.
Speaking of the monkey, I felt so bad for the monkey when Sylvester hit him. Again, you don't see the action, but you hear it, you laugh, but you also feel so bad for the monkey.
Yeah, poor monkey. But, oh well, what can you do? It's interesting that we've got, of course, first appearance of Granny, but I felt Granny in this one was more like Droopy. You know, the way she would just show up in random spots, like, and she would outwit Sylvester, so she'll appear in the cage when Sylvester is the bellboy again, another costume change for him, which is fantastic, by the way, and things like that. I mean, what do you guys think of Granny in this one? I mean, she seems to be a lot more aggressive a character versus the passive character she could be in some of them.
Yeah, I think Granny contributes more to the gags than any of the story. She really is just there for gags, and later ones, of course, she really serves more for the story and giving Sylvester a bit of a harder time with dialogue and the setup. Here, she kind of is just there to help protect Tweety in funny ways.
Yeah.
I'm so used to having June Foray do the voice of Granny, but I know that Bea Benaderet originally did it, and I do like the way that she does Granny's voice. But yeah, it's like the character is there in terms of design and the voice, but just like you're close, but you're not quite there in terms of her characterization. And it's so strange because when you think of Friz, two perfect examples would be Sylvester himself in Life with Feathers and Yosemite Sam in Hair Trigger, that he nailed the characters on the first try. And with Granny, it was like, close, but we're almost there. But I thought it was kind of strange because, like I said, Friz has a track record of nailing certain characters on the first try.
And the interesting thing about Granny in this one is that typically in these, Sylvester would be more or less silent, except maybe for one sentence or whatever. And here, yeah, he talks, but Granny can seemingly be able to talk to Sylvester when he's announcing himself as the bellboy, and then at the end when Tweety's singing, it's like she understands Tweety. So in later shorts, she'd just be interacting with them as just regular animals. But here, yeah, it's a bit weird. But you know what? Who cares? I think this cartoon's really funny.
Just two musical things. Manny's music tie, yeah, you get the point. I always enjoyed listening to Shuffle Off the Buffalo at the very end when Sylvester was running on the rails that they have in San Francisco. You know, obviously the cartoon looks like it was based in San Francisco. And I always get a kick out of hearing Sobre las olas, or in English, Over the Waves. It was written by... I didn't know this until a few years ago, but by a Mexican composer, Juventino Rosas. And it's the... And, of course, I've heard that song for as early as I can remember it. Like, Case of the Missing Hair was, I think, the first cartoon I ever saw with that particular song in it. And then when I found out the name of it as I've gotten older, I was like, yay. And whenever I hear it in a Warner Brothers cartoon, I always get very giddy because it's one of my earliest cartoon memories.
I gotta ask though, what organ grinder is in San Francisco?
Man, New York in the 30s. Fiorello LaGuardia did that. See, look at the research I did for the other commentary. And I've never been to San Francisco, so I don't know how, because I know, like, obviously in New York, there was a lot of Italian immigrants that lived there and still do. But maybe there was a fair amount of Italian immigration to San Francisco. So, but I'm not sure. Like I said, I've been in San Francisco in the airport, if that counts.
Yeah, you're true San Franciscan. Is that the name? I don't know.
I can't really find any scene for organ grinders in San Francisco. I'm sure there might have been a few, but I think it was more of a New York thing. Even if they were bands, I think there were still plenty around. I
think it was just a case of, hey, it's funny, just put it in. We're not here for accuracy.
Of course, I'm thinking too. It, of course, is based off San Francisco, but of course the organ grinder is a funny thing.
Exactly right. And of course, Manny can say the wonderful Simpsons reference.
Boy, I hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Exactly. There we go. But, you know, in terms of rating, I'm giving this one 8 out of 10. I was entertained, and I'm actually been pleasantly surprised so far that while I was never the biggest Sylvester and Tweety fan, I am really enjoying these early ones. These ones are full of energy. Now, I may change my tune as we go along when they become really generic, but hey, this one's a great one, and it's a perfect one to watch. Oh, and before I forget, that desk clerk, his face before he answers the phone, and then of course, when he goes all polite when he answers the phone. That was me when I was working in a call center. And anyone you call in a call center, just assume that that's them, okay? That their face is just all like, I gotta answer this phone. And then it's like, hello, welcome to, and then go from there. I have to point that out. But Manny, what would you rate this one?
Jumping on that point, I'm like, that's definitely how I get sometimes when someone texts me when I don't feel like talking to them, or you get those annoying phone calls
from me.
As for when I get messages from you, like, when are you going to send me this commentary? No. As for the rating, repeat everything that Anthony said in your brain, but with my voice instead of his. 8 out of 10. Like, you nailed it. Everything I was going to say, you nailed it in your thing.
Beautiful.
Unless you want me to repeat word for word what you exactly said.
No, this is going too long. I kid. SE, what would you rate this one?
I'm going to give it 7, which is usually what I consider the typical Warner Brothers cartoon. They're really funny. It is a typical funny Friz cartoon with his good sense of timing, use of music, and his use of character. It's just a good Friz cartoon.
Yeah. I agree. It's a solid cartoon, maybe not a standout, but a nice, solid short. So I guess we'll wrap it up here. So thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, take care.
That's all, folks.
So long, everyone.
Fuckatash, that's my line.
I thought I saw a putty cat. You did draw a putty cat.